Hey there, Laker fans. Welcome to Lakers Extra Detailed. Luka is here, and the Lakers have just introduced him. And if you guys watch the live stream with me and Raj, you already know what our feelings are about all of this and just everything that's happened. And we're just still coming to grips, like to some degree, with the reality of the situation. But this is really real. Luka is here, and this is going to be the future of the Lakers. And I fully expect him to sign an extension. I don't think anything about him leaving in 2026 is going to be a real thing. However, that being the case, the trade deadline is still coming up, and I wanted to record this episode to share a few ideas that I had, just, you know, not scrambling, but like rummaging around behind the scenes, asking folks that have intel on different guys, what guys might be available and what guys might not be available, and try to see ways that the Lakers can improve on the margins to help now and potentially next season and beyond, as we sort of move into this Luka era of basketball. And so for this episode, I wasn't really going to talk about the fit and between Luka and LeBron. I think they're both tremendous players. I didn't want to lament too much on Anthony Davis. I think we'll probably do all that sort of stuff when Raj and I do the live stream next time. We'll do sort of a look back at everything. But because the trade deadline's so close, I thought maybe it'd be a good time to just talk about sort of the next steps. What is the next thing that we have to do? So after the trade, the Lakers are basically armed with whatever contracts they have on the team, and they also have one second round pick, which is their own second round pick for 2025, and they have the 2031 first that they're able to keep out of the trade. Now, I'm not quite sure that they're going to shop that first round pick around for anybody unless somebody happens to become available. I think they probably want to hold on to that and see if there's any opportunities in the offseason to pick people up. But you never know. Maybe something really shows up and it makes a ton of sense to use that first round pick to add a guy next to Luka Doncic and LeBron James. But we do have a second round pick, and more importantly, we do have capable players, like guys who don't have terrible value around the league, and they have productive value that might make trades. So I wanted to share like three marginal trades, and this isn't going to be a long episode because again, the timeline's moving so fast with all these different things. I think just getting some fresh ideas would make sense because all you're hearing right now is Miles Turner, Walker Kessler. It's really the same names that are being regurgitated over and over again. So I wanted to share three specific ideas that I had that I think are options that maybe the Lakers should consider because who knows, those players might be available. And so the first one that I was sort of thinking of was one that involved the Philadelphia 76ers. Again, they are a team that is trying to get out of the luxury tax. They just made a move as of this recording to trade Caleb Martin for Quentin Grimes, which would have been a great. If I had known Quentin Grimes was available, I would have like sent the second to Dallas to get Quentin Grimes in LA. But alas, he's in Philly. But it looks like Philadelphia, and the idea behind these trades is to target teams that are clearly tanking and are clearly moving in a different direction. So they need to create minutes for the guys that they need to see if they're going to be part of their future moving forward, that sort of thing. Or they're just kind of making these moves in advance. Like they want to lose this season, but they also need to free up like the minutes and the roster spots and the roles and stuff like that going into next season. So these are the teams that I'm sort of looking at because I think that's where the opportunity is for the Lakers. And I think the Lakers most likely are probably going to wait. I would be very shocked if they made a move very early, but I think they're going to wait and see how the dust settles with a lot of these moves because it makes more sense for the players that need to get dumped to like all these other teams, and then the Lakers show up in the aftermath and say, "Hey, do you want this guy actually?" And if teams are like, "No, you can have him if you want, just throw us a second round pick," that's sort of smarter. Like if the Lakers go to any of these three teams I'm about to mention at the end of all of this, maybe not in the 11th hour, but on the day of the trade deadline, and they ask for these players, there might be a chance that they can get them at the absolute lowest cost. So it'll be very interesting to see. So first, the first team I wanted to look at was the Philadelphia 76ers. So the Lakers very clearly have a need for a center, but it doesn't look like they're going to be trying to invest in a very high caliber center. I know Nick Claxton has been mentioned, but he's a high salary. I don't know how committed the Lakers are to going after a guy like Nick Claxton because of how high his salary is. Same thing applies to like Miles Turner. Same thing applies to Vucevic. Luka has changed the calculus of everything. Like his ability to create next to LeBron and then Austin functionally being the third ball handler, all those guys and their ability to create shots and open looks for their teammates, on top of being really fantastic offensive players, um, changes how much skill you sort of need out of some of those other positions. Now, the weight of those skills doesn't necessarily need to be as offensive. It needs to be more defense, rebounding, high IQ defense, high IQ offense, that sort of thing. And so, because the calculus has changed in the back end, I think you have to change the way that you look for a certain player. So you need guys that are just big, tough, and can finish plays for you to some degree. So the first team that I was sort of thinking of here is Philadelphia, a team that's trying to get lower into the luxury tax. They're going to tank because they want to preserve their pick, and you need to and they may part with guys on longer term salaries to make sure that they stay out of the tax, or at least have some more room to make moves in the off season. So right now, they trade for Quentin Grimes, so you can't aggregate for him again unless the Lakers decide to just send like a single player and try to get him in single function without him being aggregated. But because they traded for him, I assume that they probably want to keep him. But they're still pretty limited on picks, Philadelphia specifically. So if they're interested in getting another second round pick, the Lakers could approach them for a guy like Kelly Oubre, a guy like Andre Drummond, or a guy like Kenyon Martin Jr. And maybe a combination of Kenyon Martin Jr. and Andre Drummond that totals out to about $13 million. Maybe that makes sense. Maybe Gabe in the second gets you Kenyon Martin Jr. and Andre Drummond. Um, Maybe Gabe, veteran minimum, and the second gets you Kelly Oubre and Kenya Martin Jr. Or any combination of those two or three guys. Uh, all guys that may not necessarily be part of Philadelphia's future moving forward. And if that's the case, I think that's an avenue the Lakers should go. You get a low salary, probably backup big in Andre Drummond, maybe a starting big, depending on what other moves the Lakers can make. But certainly a guy who can finish possessions that are created by Luka, um, alley oops, ducks, dives, that sort of thing, and a guy who can rebound at a very high level. Probably not the best of rim protectors, but certainly a big body that helps you deal with the Steven Adams, the Zach Edey's, and the Nikola Jokic's of the world. So I'd be very curious to see how that sort of works out. But that's one avenue that I think the Lakers should consider, taking a look at those three guys with the Philadelphia 76ers. Now, the next team that I would also potentially consider is a team that you've heard mentioned, but not for these players specifically, and that's the Chicago Bulls. Like, they've gone and finally moved Zach LaVine and got absolutely nothing in return for him. And I don't really know what Chicago is trying to do, but again, they might just value picks. Seems like they value picks. I don't know if Nikola Vucevic is still in the cards for the Lakers just because of his salary. Again, his salary is kind of high at 20 million, and the calculus has changed. You don't need the shooting as much now from Vucevic because you have a guy like Luka creating for your bigs. You need a guy who can put pressure on the rim in a way that like a real big body would, where Vooch is a little bit more skill oriented, and you want a guy that's really high motor. So if you take a look around and you take a look at that team, there are two guys that sort of pop out in that the Lakers can potentially take a look at. They just traded for Zach Collins, and so because they traded for Zach Collins, uh, Vucevic is expendable, but now they have a few too many bigs. They have Vucevic, they have Zach Collins, and they have Jalen Smith, who they play at small ball center, who they can play at small ball center sometimes, and sometimes they've also used him as a four, like they use him next to Vucevic to play two big lineups. And so one of the avenues that the Lakers could potentially, I think the Lakers should consider, is taking a look at Jalen Smith and Ayo Dosunmu, two guys that might not necessarily be part of Chicago's future moving forward. Maybe some combination of Lakers players and a second round pick gets you something like that. I think those are two guys that you can look at. Zach Collins by himself is also a guy who might potentially make some sense too for the Lakers. I'm not too crazy. He seems like a pretty average center, but for a guy that's at 16 million, maybe Gabe plus a couple, plus a vet min and a second round pick, maybe you get back something, and who knows? Like, it'd be very interesting to see what you could get for those two guys. And then the last team that I would take a look at, which is a little bit more of a splashier trade, which I think people probably don't think would happen, but I would assure you that the player is available, is going to a team like the Charlotte Hornets. The Hornets have a guy who's played with Luka before, and Josh Green, in Dallas. He's a guy, not necessarily a 3 and D guy because he doesn't shoot threes at a very high volume, but certainly a guy who's sort of cut from the same cloth of DFS, and Jared Vanderbilt, in the sense that he's a very high motor, physical defensive player. He's also a very high motor rebounder at his position. If you're playing this 4 out, 1 in, I mean, I don't even know if we're playing 4 out, 1 in anymore because Anthony Davis is no longer there. But that's a spacing. Like, you need guys that can rebound in space. A guy like Josh Green, and who knows? Go reach out and ask about Mark Williams too. He's a guy who's been injured up and down, and might not necessarily be somebody who's part of Charlotte's future moving forward because of the injury history. Charlotte's going to have a really high first round pick. They're going to try and get Cooper Flag, and so Mark Williams might not be somebody who's part of them. So that's somebody that I would. That's another combination of players that I'd probably consider trying to go after. Maybe some combination of we would probably require the Lakers to send some first round comp back. So with Luka here in tow and Austin, and obviously LeBron's here, and when LeBron eventually moves on, we'll probably get another offensive guy. If you're looking around, maybe Dalton and Gabe get you a combination of Josh Green and Mark Williams. You add that second round pick, maybe that works for Charlotte, and that's something that they'd be interested in. That way, all of these different combinations of players that you're doing, these combinations of things that you're doing, you're essentially uh, trying to add to that center depth, with a burlier center, and also maybe add a wing guy who's a little bit more of a 3 and D wing guy, and not somebody who requires like a ton of volume in order for them to be successful. And these are guys I think that can help around the margins. So you add a guy like Josh Green or Ayo Dosunmu, or Kelly Oubre, or Kenya Martin Jr., and you add it to the crop of Dorian Finney-Smith, Jared Vanderbilt. Like, now you're adding more athleticism, more defense, more 3 and D types. And so I'd be very curious to see if those guys are available. But I think those are guys that are probably available to some degree, and I don't think it would cost very much to get them. And I genuinely think it's an opportunity for the Lakers to try and explore adding guys on the margins. And if you can add a guy like Mark Williams, he's a restricted free agent, like he's still on his rookie salary contract. Maybe Charlotte doesn't want they want to push his RFA out a little bit more. Maybe they do like Dalton over Mark. And then, I know they drafted a Frenchman, a young French guy, earlier this season. I think he's a rookie. They might be trying to create minutes for him too as well. So I'm going to be very curious to see what direction the Lakers go in. I do agree that I don't know if there's a center out there that really puts you over the top. I know people are saying Miles Turner and stuff like that, but I don't know how available he actually is. I think that just might be the Pacers pump faking for like the 6th year in a row. So I'll be very interested to see. But those are 3 ideas. Those are 3 teams, the types of teams I think the Lakers should be reaching out to try and improve the team, and try to find guys that you can add on the margins that wouldn't cost you a lot, that carry on can help us now and next year and potentially into the future, because you could probably retain them on really favorable player contracts. So, like I said, Luka is here. Anthony Davis is a Dallas Maverick. Max Christie is a Dallas Maverick. It's going to be very interesting to see how the Lakers round out the rest of the team. I'm sure most of any serious moves that happen are probably going to happen in the offseason. But in the meanwhile, we know how Luka likes to play. We know how LeBron likes to play. And we know what Austin is capable of. So it's really just about finding the guys that fit around them that can do the things that we need them to do to keep our defensive floor really high, our rebounding floor really high, so we can allow Luka and Braun and Austin to be just sort of the magnificent offensive players that they can be. So I'll be very curious to see what happens, and see how it goes. So if you enjoyed this video, feel free to like and subscribe. You guys have been wonderful with helping this channel grow. And the last live stream, I mean, we're almost at 1,000 subscribers. So if you haven't, I thoroughly appreciate it. I do have some very, very cool things that I'm going to be doing with Lakers Detailed that's going to be exclusive to people who subscribe to the channel, and just rock with us consistently. And so I appreciate all the folks that do share and like our clips and all that sort of stuff that Raj and I do, and continue supporting him too, in all of the things that he does too as well. And wherever you're listening to this, I hope you're having a wonderful day. And if nothing else, I'll see you in the next one. Take it easy.